Hello guys, today I am going to be watching some scary animations, just like I told you, just like Korea extension. Okay, and then we're going to be playing some games and having some fun. And like Korea Kenshin always says, get yourself some snacks and drinks. Right now I have Hershey's and Mountain Dew. You can pause the video right now if you want to get your snacks, or let's just while I am going to just start the video, you pause it if you want to and go and get snacks, and let's get into it. But before we do, if you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notifications, and if you enjoy this video, like this video, please. And if there's anything wrong with my channel, you can comment down below so I can fix that. Horror Shorts Party.
This happened to me about a year ago. I used to be a
Oh
janitor.
my god. This guy actually looks like Cory.
For a cleaning agency. I would basically take contract jobs to clean in various locations. One day, my cleaning agency gave me a cleaning contract at a psychiatric ward, also known as an asylum. To be honest, I was a bit hesitant to take the job, just because of the superstition of asylums being haunted, but I took it anyway because the pay was decent. Later that day, I arrived there. I see a huge old-looking building. To be honest, I was quite creeped out since the asylum was secluded in the middle of nowhere. When I arrive inside, I notice people giving me an uninviting stare. I'm not just talking about the patients, I'm also talking about the employees as well. To be honest, I kept it professional and began to do my job. I remember mopping the hallway and seeing some really bizarre things. I saw some creepy-looking patients that had a disturbing look to them. I don't know, they just looked like the kind of people you would see in one of those Exorcist movies.
Ooh. What just happened?
I remember seeing this one guy that really gave me the chills. It was a man who looked to be about 7 feet tall.
Oh my god.
He gave me this really disturbing smile, like he wanted to kill me. I could see a nurse instructing him to lay on his bed. He didn't look too happy after that. I also remember seeing a swimming class taking place. Well, not exactly a swimming class, just a bunch of patients in a swimming pool. They were all holding an exercise ball,
That's
mimicking the actions of the instructor. I personally found it unsettling, to say the least. When it was around the end of my
Why?
shift, and I was getting ready to head home, I noticed all the patients' doors were closed, except for one room. I could see someone laying on the floor with their legs halfway across the door.
If I was this guy, I would run. I would go back from where I came from, call the police, yeah, and just run. I won't go in there.
It was a bit alarming for one to be laying on the floor like that. I then saw the person getting yanked into the room. That honestly startled the crap out of me. I then noticed a puddle of blood spilling out from the room and onto the hallway. I decided to approach the room and see what the hell was going on.
Why would you do that? Why would this guy approach the room? Idiot!
As I peeked inside the room, I saw one of the most disturbing things ever. It was the tall man I saw earlier. He was biting the hell out of one of the nurse's neck.
Oh my god! Holy shit! Call the police, you idiot!
You could see the nurse's eyes gouged out with blood pouring everywhere. I carefully made sure to not scream or make a sound. I got the hell out of there and immediately started driving off.
Call the
I even
police.
called the cops while driving.
Good.
To this day, I'm still traumatized by what I saw that night. I'm not sure exactly what happened to the tall man, but he still gives me the chills just thinking about him.
Ooh. My God, look at his eyes. Let's watch this one. Hang on, let's go back. Oh my God. Oh, I can fall. Guys, be sure to go subscribe to this channel. It's called Horror Shorts Party. I'm just gonna do that right now. Show them some support. Guys, and if your parents are around you, I suggest you sit alone, or you look up some video like this one. Go check out Fearless, this guy. Once you put another video, put it like halfway through here, and then press this button over here to go back to the previous video. So if one of your parents comes to check on you, just press this button to go to the next video, so it looks like you're watching something not scary. And if your parents are the type that checks your history, go over here. Okay, go to library and then delete the scary video by pressing these 3 dots here, and press the first one that says remove from watch history. Now I'm just gonna do that real quick, and then go back to home and then start the video.
This happened to me on a trip to Lyon, France.
Leon,
I was traveling solo from the States and had booked a stay with this old couple in their house. I say old, they must have been in their mid-60s. It was a new listing and only had a couple of reviews, but they were both really positive. From the photos, I could tell that this place wasn't exactly a 5-star joint, but for the price, it was a steal and in a great location to boot. That first night when I arrived, the older couple actually made dinner for me. It was a nice touch, and who was I to refuse? Their English was decent, so we chatted and shared a few stories, and afterwards I went to explore the city and get a few drinks. I must have returned around 10 p.m, and my hosts were nowhere to be seen. In bed asleep, I figured. The pair had told me at dinner to help myself to a little wine, which is precisely what I did when I got in. Nice folks. Afterwards, I went up to my bedroom to settle down myself. Now, I usually have trouble sleeping, but that night I fell asleep with surprising ease. All the traveling that day had worn me out, and that little bit of wine probably helped too, I guess. I'm not sure what time it was, but I awoke in the night to a flash of lightning. You know when your eyes are closed, but you can still tell there was a flash of bright light? Well, it was just like that. I remained curled up in bed.
Can you guys tell if there's a flash of lightning if your eyes closed? Comment down below.
With my eyes still shut, waiting for the crash of thunder to come with it. I counted the passing seconds in my head. My mum always used to tell me that however many seconds there were between the lightning and thunder, that was how many miles away it had struck. So I'm there, counting away in my head. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 20, 30. That's odd, I thought. No thunder. It was then, through closed eyelids, that I sensed another lightning flash. Again, I waited for the thunder, but it never came. I sat up in bed and opened my eyes, just to see if my sleep-hazed mind was playing tricks on me. It hadn't been.
Oh my god.
Inside my bedroom were my two hosts. Initially, I didn't realize just how bizarre this situation was. I was still in that confused, just out of sleep state. Even still, I knew there was something off about their expressions.
What the heck?
As my eyes adjusted, I could tell what was wrong. They were both wearing masks, latex masks of old human faces with exaggerated features.
Ew.
The flashes had been from the camera the woman was holding. They'd been taking pictures of me whilst I slept.
Oh.
The husband was nearer to the bed than the wife, though, and he was in mid-step, moving closer. She was further back by the door. It was as if he wanted to be in the pictures. With me now awake, they both froze like a pair of mannequins. What do you want? At the time, I couldn't think of anything else to say. The adrenaline hadn't kicked in yet. I was more confused than freaked out.
Call the police.
Said the male, his voice
What
muffled
did he
behind the
say?
latex mask.
Sorry guys, I didn't
Then,
understand.
backing, said the male, his voice muffled behind the latex. You're dreaming, said the male, his voice muffled behind the latex.
How does he know if he's dreaming? Oh my god.
Mask. Then, backing up towards the door. Good night. It wasn't until I noticed the metal wrench in the old man's hand that the situation fully dawned on me. I quickly gathered my shit and made for the front door, glancing around like crazy in case the old fucks tried to ambush me with the wrench from around a corner. Needless to say, I contacted the police immediately, though nothing ever came of it. My evidence was all anecdotal. The old geezers had been smart enough to delete all of the pictures. My complaints to Airbnb were largely ignored too, though the old couple did remove their listing from the site. I don't know what all of that was about. Some cult-like shit? A messed up fetish? Some fucking potential snuff pictures they were making. The old man was definitely in the shots, and it was clear that he was trying to step towards me quietly, wrench in hand. Whatever the case,
Oh, you're trying
I'll
to
never
murder
complain about
him.
being a light sleeper again. I still check Airbnb regularly, just to make sure they don't use it to lure anyone else in.
Oh, what the heck? Oh, they murdered people at the ranch. Guys, 2 more videos and then I'm ending the video here. Oh, guys, I'm sorry, 1 minute.
Defeat the enemy, I'm full of energy.
Okay, guys, are you back? Hello? Okay.
1999 was just another ordinary Sunday around our house. After the four of us returned from morning services...
Guys, hang on, I'm going to get some more hot cheese. Wait, hang on. I'm gonna pause the video for a sec. Okay, guys, I'm back.
preparing the last few sides for lunch. Just before noon, the children were called to the table, and as usual, a great meal was had. When we were all satisfied, the kids ran off to do their thing, and I assisted Aaron in cleaning the table. Once I completed my husbandly duties, I slipped away to the living room to nap for the few hours. Around 3:45, I was awakened by a phone call from my grandmother Annie, my dad's mother and the only remaining grandparent or parent on either side of my family. She had raised myself and my sister after our parents had passed, and we were all very close. She asked if I knew any young men that needed work as a repair and maintenance man. Her last guy had gotten too old to do the work, and she needed someone new to help around the house every once in a while. I helped her out as much as I could, but between my long hours at work and driving the girls back and forth to their various school-related commitments, I couldn't be relied on to do as much as she sometimes needed. Although I had no one in mind at that very moment, I told her that I'd put the word out and get back to her the next day. My first stop was to Erin. She had nothing for me. A few calls were made to various friends, but they couldn't think of anyone. However, they promised to get back with if the situation was to change. It was a waiting game now, so I plopped myself back down in the chair and dozed off again. A knock came at the door just as I began to drift off. The interruption annoyed me, and for a second I considered not answering it. I decided to go ahead, if just to stop them from banging on the door. When I opened it, I was met by a smiling young man holding business cards. He asked if I needed him to mow the yard. I declined his offer, but just then, Grandmother Annie's request popped into my mind. He was about to walk away until I caught him and asked him if he could do basic repairs.
Okay.
Things like fixing broken garbage disposals. When I asked this, his eyes lit up and he said yes. In fact, he had been a Mr. Fixit in his last job, but unfortunately there was not enough work, so he was forced to fall back on lawn mowing to make ends meet. I briefly looked him over and thought about it in my head for a moment. He seemed like a nice, well-mannered kid. He said thank you, which is more than you can say about most people these days. Finally, I told him to give me a card. I might have a steady job for him. He did, and I promised to let him know in the morning. I let him go, and I returned to the house to enjoy my lazy afternoon. The next morning, I called Miss Annie, my family's name for her, to let her know I may have somebody, and I'd be sending him over that morning. When I hung up with her, I called the young man, Mark, and gave him the address. I
Mark.
told him he'd be doing small repairs and maintenance around my grandmother's house. At the end of each week, he was to come over to my place and I'd pay him. Once the specifics were nailed down, he thanked me and went on his way. With that out of the way, I focused on the task in front of me and put everything else out of my mind. When I returned home that day, I rang Miss Annie up to see how Mark had done. Her report of his work was encouraging. She spoke on more than one occasion of how eager he was to do well and his great attention to detail. This news was very pleasing to hear and assured me I'd made the right decision. Life would continue as normal. That Friday, Mark showed up at 6 p.m. to get his money and thank me, once again, for the opportunity. Dinner was just moments from hitting the table, so I had to cut our talk short. I told him to come around about the same time next week, and he took off, with what I assumed was a song in his heart, a smile on his face. This routine would repeat itself for the next several months. However, as time went by, Mark's smile would fade, and his appreciation seemed to become more of an attitude of entitlement.
Oh my god.
He got to the point where he wouldn't even say thank you, or anything for that matter to me. He'd just snatch the money from my hand and walk away. While this behavior ticked me off, I didn't have to like him, as long as he did his job. I hadn't talked to Miss Annie for a while, so one Monday morning, I gave her a ring to see how things were going. She said all was well, but I could tell from her voice something was bothering her. After a few minutes of coaxing, she admitted that Mark hadn't been doing his job as well as he had at first. Once a month or so had passed, he began making comments about money and not getting enough work. Since I was the one paying him, she had no idea how much he was making, so she said nothing. I assured her I was paying him plenty, enough money for a full-time employee, as a matter of fact. He had no reason to complain. When she mentioned he would get angry toward her and it scared her, I became a little concerned. Just to calm her fears, I told her I would talk to him that Friday. Even after we hung up with one another, her remark about being scared continued to eat at me. Miss Annie was very special to me, and the idea of her being afraid made me
Look
mad.
at his eyes.
I was determined to nip his behavior in the bud, but it became a problem. But I had to make sure I did so with a clear and calm head. Anger would only serve to exacerbate the situation and breed bitterness between us. I'd cooled off by the time Friday came around. In fact, I was in a pretty good mood. Spring was just beginning to rear its head, and I was looking forward to more sunny and warm days. Mark arrived at the usual time and had the now common scowl across his face. He attempted to snatch the cash from my hand, but before he could, I stopped him and said we needed to talk. He said nothing as I spoke, just stared with an annoyed look. I finished and asked if we had a problem between us and made sure to express how serious I was. All he could say was no and assured me we were cool before he slowly reached out for the money and pulled it from my hand. This time,
All he
said
wants is the
thank you
money.
before walking away quickly. I couldn't be positive, but things seemed to be clearer, if not better. I wouldn't know for sure until I spoke to Miss Annie that Monday, but I felt optimistic about it. Things at work were very hectic that Monday, so I wasn't able to call Miss Annie until later in the day. Strangely, I got no answer, but figured she was out or busy and I could try again later. Work got busy again, and it was not until I clocked out that I could call her back. I decided to let it go until the next day.
Okay. Okay, guys, hang on.
Tuesday morning was much quieter around the office. I had plenty of time to make a call. For the third time, she didn't answer. Now I was becoming scared. So I contacted the police and asked if they could do a wellness check. Miss Annie was almost 80 by then, and the chance of falls were high in people that age. I was told they would and to call back in a few hours. However, it was they who called me back. The tone of the officer's voice uneased me, and he seemed to be dragging out things. This made me mad. I was already on edge from worry, although I'm not proud of it now. At the
Yeah,
time, it was
there's a big
understandable.
problem.
I yelled at him to spit it out, so he did just that. They had done the wellness and found Miss Annie dead. This was unexpected but not shocking, assuming she'd died
Oh my god. That guy probably killed her. That man killed her.
of a heart attack. I asked what the causes were. When he told me that she had been murdered, I blanked out for a minute.
I knew it.
Never in my wildest fears had I expected to hear those words. He had to yell out a few more times before I responded, and even then, I felt like I was in a fog. This stuck with me for about an hour, but once I had to tell